What made us invest in real estate? Like it's something that goes against what we're usually taught about, getting into a risky situation with money or getting into debt. So what made us actually jump into real estate investing? Hola, I am Violeta and my co-host Lindsay.
Yes, welcome to the podcast. And this episode, we're just going to talk about our journey and how we decided to move away from other types of investments. In America and the US, you have so many options, right? Like you can save your money and then just put it in a savings account. You can then buy crypto, which is like huge right now. You can put it into the S&P 500, or you can start your own business. But we moved away from all of that and we started investing into real estate. How did that happen for you, Violetta?
With me, you know, grew up with do the American dream, like go get your degree and just find a nice career and go buy your house, right? When I joined the military, it made it more accessible to me, like kind of right away with the VA home loan. So when I went to my second duty station, I was like, okay, now I can buy a house. And so I just was like, well, let me just go for it. Like it was just like a thing like, okay, well that's the next step. Let me go do it. And so I did. I went to go look at houses and um at that time I think I was only able to get a loan for like 140 or 150 I think it was, but I was going to be at 140 was my max. And so I went and got my first house, but I ended up getting a four-bedroom, two and a half bath, and it was just me. Then I had a friend who went through like a breakup and he needed a place to stay. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I have an extra room. You could rent it, I could rent that room out to you. And so that's how not knowing, I ended up starting, investing in real estate, right? Because that house, I would get made fun of too, because that house was like an older home and it was an old established, just, blue collar type of neighborhood, but all around it was like woods, and it was undeveloped kind of like around and everything. So they always said I lived in the boondocks and everything like that. So when people would go with me, like, dang, you live in the boondocks, there's nothing out here. And so I was like, even then, when I was looking at that house, I kind of saw the potential because of the location. It was in between two military kind of bases. Well, the other one's not technically a base, it's just like a shipyard, but military that goes there, and that one is in a good location because you could get the interstate right off of that street, the main street. And so then I ended up just like, okay, um gonna rent that out. Once I left, I was like, "Oh, well, what do I do with this house? Like, do I sell it? Like, what do I do?" And at the time, I had a supervisor on my ship, and he's like, "You know what? Just rent it out. Like, it's good. Get some money out of it. I'm a property manager. I'll manage it for you." And I was like, "Okay." So that's what I did. So then I ended up, getting my first rental property, and then when I went to the new duty station, I decided to buy again another house because of the VA loan. And at that time, that supervisor, like, yeah, go get another house as the next duty station, and you slowly start collecting rental properties. The problem was with the second house, I wasn't looking at it as a potential rental property. I was looking at it as a house for me. So So it was, not necessarily a big mistake because I lived in it, and I also house hacked that one. I rented out a room, to somebody because I started getting into that habit. But when I left to go to California, I did rent it out for 1 year, but the rental, income was not enough. I was actually paying like $200 out of pocket with, basically paying the property manager on my own dime. And so that was in 2021. I had to make the decision because then I started learning about real estate investing and the strategies and starting to build my knowledge. And I was like, okay, well, it's time to like, this is something that I want to take seriously, especially with my first rental property. It was doing good. I think my mortgage at that time was like less than $800 and I was renting it out for 1,600. And, so I was like, I started to see like, oh wow. And then that property like increased in value because all around that they started developing a shopping center. They put some restaurants, a big old like a whole bunch, like it developed, and they even started building a whole bunch of houses and all that stuff. So it brought my property appreciated a lot. And so I started seeing the value of investing in real estate, and I started joining like the Facebook groups and all that stuff and looking at YouTube and all that and reading some books. I was like, all right, I want to start, taking this seriously. And I was like, well, this property, this house that my second house is kind of like taking money away from me. I actually want to make money. So I decided to sell that house after a year. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the loss, which didn't end up being a loss. I still managed to make still a little bit of money from it. Um, and I was like, okay, with that money, and at that time I had refinanced the first house. I did a cash out refinance because it had appreciated so much. And I used that to buy my first duplex. And then that was in 2021. And ever since then, that's was my focus. The idea was that I would buy one every year. So yeah, that's kind of like how I fell into it. It was just kind of like I didn't know what I was doing. And someone told me like, hey, just rent it out. And then it stemmed from there.
Yeah. You're like an accidenting landlord because you had to
Yeah.
move the second house. I got heavily into financial independence, retire early.
Hmm.
Because I was like 29, I had bought my first residential home here in Los Angeles, and I was like, "Oh my god, my bills are higher now." Like, before I was renting for like 10 years, like my rent, and I was able to save money. As a nurse, I was not longer struggling like paycheck to paycheck, so I was able to save money. So, but when I move into a house, water, power, sewage, gas, everything like you start paying for like I had a lot of lawn. Now I have a gardener. I
Yeah.
had a pool, so now I have a pool man. Like I have employees. So I'm like, yes, it's something that I wanted for myself to be a homeowner. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure out a way of like make my money go extra because I don't feel comfortable with like living paycheck to paycheck, right? I needed to So I was like, what do I do with anything that I have saved? So I started like putting money away into your 401k and to like a Roth IRA and to even open a brokerage account. But it was during 2020 then the pandemic hit that
Hmm.
I basically was thrown into like COVID being a from care line nurse. And then this is the first time in which I started to hate my job because
Hmm.
it's just so much devastation every day. It made me have to resolve to look at other sources of income because I didn't want to go to work anymore, or I wanted to go to work less, right?
Hmm.
Like half the time or even less. I was just like, if I continue to invest heavily into the stock market, it's still going to take me like 10 to 15 years to like even try to even work less, right? Like because fire works, but you have to put a lot of years into it. So I was like, what do I do? Like, do I leave my career and do something else? So I changed my job. Like, so I started looking up how do you make money
Hmm.
basic like Google search, how do you make money?
Yeah.
And you can start a business, which I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I like was raised like my parents were unemployed during at different times in their lives because they were trying to start a business. And
Mhm.
I saw like the toll it took to with my parents living in Peru. So I don't feel comfortable just taking off and doing your own thing without the backup of a continuous paycheck every week,
Mhm.
every other week. So I started to look at other types of investments like real estate. So I was just like, oh, I'm already like I had my home in Los Angeles. Kind of was house hacking because I was letting my friends rent the rooms. They were traveler nurses. So I was just like, I'm kind of doing real estate investing technically because, I am getting some subsidized from the rent that I'm giving out for my rooms. So I was like, maybe I can do that more. But then I learned about what it takes to get a rental property, like 20% down, conventional loan, make sure your income to debt ratio is still good. So I was just like, there's no way with my income I can get another house in LA. And even when I get another house, if I rent every single room, I'm not going to cash flow, right? If I live there, maybe I could help with the mortgage, but I'm not going to cash flow. So this is not going to bring me income. And more looking at it, like more reading books, I was like, you can do things out of state. So that's when I just like, okay, well, where out of state would I be able to go and then make money? And then that came into the realization, like in the middle of the country, it's not as expensive as LA, right? Like you can
Mhm.
buy properties for less than $1 million. Who knew? Anyways, I didn't. But so I started looking at the other markets around me. So I was a traveler nurse and I had the possibility of like traveling to another state for income for contracts, for different contracts. So I was going to go to Chicago
Mhm.
because it's comparable, like the rates were comparable to LA in terms of like nursing.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, I'm just going to invest in Chicago or buy something. I'm going to house hack in Chicago. I'm going to go try to get a condo or a townhouse because I don't think I could afford a house. And then I can rent out the rooms to travel nurses. So that would give me the leverage of like putting a little bit down and also have somebody else, pay the rest of the mortgage, even profit from it. But it was 2022, and then so the pandemic was going on, and everybody was a moratorium. Nobody can get like out of their house because everybody
Mhm.
had this foreclosure like things, and then interest rates were low, so prices were high. Like there were so many components to investing in a city like Chicago. But I was like, okay, maybe I need somewhere that I can be. I have like more rights, and I can be. It would be more landlord friendly that than
Mhm.
so I started looking at Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. Finally landed on a market. I had found other people investing in that same area
Mhm.
in Indiana. So I started talking to them. But so my journey definitely started with networking,
Mhm.
talking to other people that are investing in the same area and kind of like trying to learn from them and then following their steps. It was kind of like copy and paste.
Yeah.
So yes, there was a lot of fear starting to invest even out of state, but there's also like that tells of the people that were ahead of me that were doing it successfully that make me feel more comfortable. And I think that's one of the things that stops our community from even think that they can do this
Mhm.
because they don't see people like us doing it, right? Like because you live in a high cost of living area like Texas, like Los Angeles, like New York, you think like there's no way that you can invest in anything like real estate, but there are ways. Like I'm not saying just go out of state, but also it's a possibility. Like you should take that into consideration. So that's the first time that I was able to find cash flow. So like return higher than what the stock market was giving you, which would be
Mhm.
an average of 7%, right? No matter what, like up and down. Historically, we know that it will give you at least 7%. So I wanted higher cash flow than that because I was trying to get away from my W-2. So that
Yeah.
was the drive there for me. And that's how I started investing in my first market. Over the last 3 years, I'm investing heavily in my market and learning along the lines, little by little. I started investing conventionally, 20% down, getting a bank loan, mortgage on the house, and then renting it out more than the mortgage. So I get a monthly cash flow. And then from that, moved on to higher ways of scaling. I learned about
Mhm.
putting a HELOC on my property, my primary residence. We all benefited from the appreciation that we had over COVID years. So
Mhm.
I was able to get a hefty HELOC on my house, and I'm using that as a fund to do burrs. So I purchased from the HELOC, rehab from the HELOC. Once I put a mortgage on the property, I pay back my HELOC. And then so I recycle that that bank money
Mhm.
over and over again. And also, I learned about creative financing, which last year I just learned about creative financing. I was just like, what is
Yeah.
creative financing? I was like, there's so many possibilities, like no money down, low interest, interest
Yeah.
payment only, balloon payments. There's so many things that you have to learn that we need to talk about on the podcast too.
Yes.
Yes, it's going to be its own episode, guys. So
Yeah.
be attentive to our weekly drops. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was how I got into it.
Both of us, we were kind of like, you know what, let's go for it. I don't Yeah, I had like a little bit, but I think because I was just younger and, again, like how you mentioned that you have your main job, and that's use it to, and be able to buy these properties and everything. So I had that cushion as well. So I think that's why I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it, and just kind of like took on the risk without really like thinking about it, because I didn't have like no, I was just me. Like I only me and my dog at that time. Like I had to worry about. So like, if it fails, like whatever, I still have my main job. Like, and I could pay whatever. But now that I have a family, I have to really. I think now is when I'm having a little bit of resistance, because now it's not just like me. Now it's like, oh, okay, now I have my husband and my daughter, and now I'm out of the military, so now I don't have that nice cushiony job or whatever to kind of fall back on. So I think I'm just being a little bit more careful, I guess, now, and a little bit more strategy, but I got to get more into the creative financing. But yeah, I don't remember having too much resistance. I don't know if you did at the beginning.
Yeah. I think it was scary, yes, but I was more scared of staying in the same job and like having my
Mhm.
mental health decline. So that was like a primary motivator, like this has to work kind of thing for you because you can't do this forever because this is not gonna work. So this has to work. So
Yeah.
that was like the big motivator. And also too, like I do have some confidence on myself in terms of money because it comes from years of being able to budget, being
Mhm.
able to go over in your finances, being able to prepare for the future. Like if an emergency happens, you have to have an emergency fund. So like years of developing those skills which don't come like this is not common sense, right? This is
No.
things that you learn over as you mature, as you pay rents, having a cushion of 1 month's expense and your checking account so you don't overdraft. And not only that, like you have a car that can break down at any time. So you're like, you need to prepare for that. And then now that when I had a house, I'm like, everything is more expensive.
Mhm.
Like now you have to have a hefty emergency fund for anything that goes wrong. So like being comfortable with those recent challenges that you have as your age. And now like, okay, I look at my finances, I look at how to manage money. I know what income I bring. I know how much I spend. I know how much I
Mhm.
save. I know how much I have invested. Now I feel comfortable. Like even if this is a new venture and it fails, I know I can get back up.
I like that because a lot of people don't think it's something that they can do. And I think that's what me and you had, was like that we had the confidence in ourselves that we can do it, and we could pull ourselves out of if something goes wrong. And I think that's what some people that are hesitant about it, they think that they don't have the skills or anything like that, which you just named some. Like if you're managing your household, like figuring out how your groceries for the week or for the month, paying your bills, and if you have kids, planning their school stuff, supplies, and all that stuff. Like those are the skills that you just need in real estate investing, because it's all the same thing. Managing the budget for your properties, just you need to build up that confidence. And like you said, it's not common sense. Like, don't feel bad. There's gonna be people that are like, oh, it's just common sense that of course you got a budget, whatever. Like, no, it's a new skill. It's something new that you have to learn. And there's lots of like, people that are willing, like with Lynn, she networked and all that stuff. And you'll find that as you get into the real estate investing space, there's people that are willing to help each other, because a lot of these real estate investors are just like us. Like They're just people that have a 9 to 5 or whatever that are just trying to do investments to be able to retire early or to be able to provide for the family or whatever their thing is. So we just help each other out and then even sometimes bring like deals to each other. I know Lynn sent me one the other day, and that's how it kind of works. It's a lot of mindset. Don't think that you can't do it. It looks scary because it's something new. It's just a little bit a different thing that you have to learn and all that, but you can do it. But I think yeah, I was just kind of like I'll just do this. I was a little bit more brave when I was younger for sure.
Yeah, and I challenge everybody to think like recently I was talking to a couple that
Mhm.
had about they never invested in real estate, and then I had about $700,000 on their 401k, and they're almost ready to retire. And if you use the normal withdrawal rate, which is like 4%, right, into what they would like when they retire, aside from Social Security, then they would be only able to get monthly 2,300, right? Which is like what you're supposed to do when you're retirement. If you withdraw 4% of your like retirement account, then you would be able to live comfortably for 25 years, right? So 2,300. So they were waiting that $700,000 in their 401k. Can they put it to work in rentals? And would they be able to get more cash flow than 2,300?
Mhm.
According to my calculations, they will be able to get way more cash flow by investing those 700s in real estate.
Mhm.
And then that's how it accelerates the time that you can get out of your if you're, if that's your goal, or even start working less because you have your real estate supplementing your income. So that also is doable. Think about it. They just use, 401k, it's only 2,300, which normally in LA or living in Texas, that's not a lot of money. Like maybe it will cover your mortgage, hopefully, but it's not significantly gonna impact your life.
And it goes with like stock investing and like doing your 401k. It's not one or the other. You could do both because I see it as like your 401k is like the long term game because you can't do much with it until I'm 59 and a half or whatever, 65, whatever. I retire. I could start drawing from that. But with real estate, I could have cash flow now and I don't have like penalties because I take it out. You can leverage like how you were saying with your HELOC at any point to buy more properties, reinvest or whatever it may be. Or in my case, I ended up it wasn't a HELOC, but it was a equity loan that I used for like my fertility treatments and stuff so I could have my daughter and stuff like that. Like those are like things that real estate can help by investing in it. With myself, I don't max out my TSP, which is the military K kind of right equivalent, because I was also splitting my investing with real estate because I want the cash flow now, which again benefited me when I was having to go through all the fertility stuff and everything because I had money. I had extra cash and I had the equity from the third house that I bought in California because I also had the nice appreciation boost during COVID. So that helped a lot. And so it's just something else to add to your investment portfolio. So that way you're spread out and you have different multiple ways. Because now I we could retire earlier instead of waiting till you're like 65 because you have the cash flow to cover. Or, there's a lot of people that are doing like semi-retirements, like they just pull back from the workforce a little bit, maybe get a part-time job or whatever because they have the cash flow to cover down other bills that they have. And then when they hit closer to where they could pull from the 401k, then they're fully retired. So there's like different ways that you can utilize real estate to help you with your financial goals.
Yeah. And then going back to the couple that I was talking about earlier, to 700k that they're gonna have to withdraw, right? Monthly or yearly, however they want to do it, they're gonna have to pay income tax on that
Mhm.
money, right?
Yeah.
So not only uh they're only getting 2,300 monthly cash flow from their 401k, but they're gonna have to pay taxes on the investment.
Mhm.
If you put that money into real estate, there are tax advantages of the cash flow that you receive, depending how much leverage you do have. The
Mhm.
interest can be written off, the property tax can be written off. So your cash flow in reality, whatever you get at the end of the month, minimally things are gonna be taxed on that cash flow, right? And the whole amount of money that you get, 2,300, is not gonna be taxed. And then you get to take the depreciation on the property as well.
Yeah.
And at the end, you can give that property to your kids
Yeah.
afterwards. As opposed to you spend your 401k, your 401k is gone. There's nothing for your
Mhm.
kids time, right? So there's also that wealth building for future generations, generational wealth. So there's more than like one benefit there.
That and some of those tax benefits you can get now. So it brings like your whole tax liability down as well. Our first episode, you heard about the horror stories of our rental properties, but there's a reason we're still sticking to it because we're seeing the long-term value because we don't want to, well, you want to be retire early and not have to still be stuck with your 9 to 5 and stuff like that. So, yeah.
If you guys want to keep hearing about our shenanigans and our stories, please keep on tuning in. We're on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you can download a podcast.
Mhm.
Listen to Real Estate Have Us, and we'll see you each other next week.
Bye.